protect their children?
Yeah. I'm very, very honest about I'm honest about a lot of things. I'm very honest about the impact of trauma on children and abuse, but I'm also really honest about what post-separation abuse looks like and how that affects the child and how that affects, the victim, and that when you have young children with an abuser, you never fully escape. You have this thing that these little things that connect you, right? These people that connect you to your partner. And so it's really hard. But the analogy that I use, right or wrong, is I say, like, if somebody came to me and told me that my children are being exposed to a toxic substance in my home 100% of the time, like every time my child is home, they're being exposed to something in the air, I would probably do everything I could to rectify that, to make sure that my children were inhaling clean, pure air as much as possible, right? Being in an abusive relationship and living in an abusive household is inhaling toxic fumes. Then if somebody said, listen, you're not going to be able to eliminate this toxic fumes 100%, but maybe 50%. So let's say best case scenario, 50-50 custody, 50% of the time your child will be in a toxic environment with that abusive parent, and 50% of the time you will have the opportunity to give them a cleaner air. So again, I would probably choose 50% clean air over 100% toxicity. And so I will share a version of that example with clients and say, it's going to be hard. Divorcing, separating from an abusive parent is torture. And it doesn't necessarily end when you have finalized divorce papers or when you have a finalized custody arrangement. It continues. But you have the opportunity, if you can carve this out, to give yourself, your children and yourself, some sense of normalcy half the time. And that's meaningful, right? It's not what we want as parents. We don't want our kids being in a toxic environment 100% of the time. It's not how we go into parenting. But sometimes that's the best that we can do. So I'm realistic, and I say it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy. A lot falls on the safe parent. They have to do so much more in terms of parenting and support and emotional support and caretaking than the abusive parent, and it's exhausting and it's not fair. But if you are wanting to leave an abusive relationship and you have children, it's possible. It's gonna be messy.
I firstly absolutely love that analogy. It just makes it so clear the way it's described, because it is toxic air. It is just this, you are infused with toxicity. So if you're able to step away from that for some of the time, it was like a light bulb moment for me. That I love that.
And even one of the ways that people think about relationships and children is the belief that, like, well, if I stay in this relationship, I'm protecting my child from the abuse as much as you can. But that's, again, if we're using this air analogy, like, are you going to put your hand over your child's mouth and nose and prevent them from inhaling? No, like, you're really not. Like, you're just walking around fanning the air around them, but, like, you're protecting them. I don't want to minimize that. There is actual protection happening, or intervention, but it's not.
You're not protecting yourself either.
You're not protecting yourself either. And children need a safe parent.